Toni Price. I started working at Nottingham Play Forum with Nottingham Play Forum in the mid to late 80s, and I was employed. There were two of us that were employed as play resource workers to set up a play resource centre for Nottingham. We spent the first 6 to 9 months identifying a suitable building, and eventually settled on Bullivant Street property, an old warehouse property in Bullivant Street. We'd got inner area funding to do the project, and with that paid for salaries, but it also paid for the refurbishment of the property. But a lot of the work to the building, which was a rundown unit, we actually did ourselves, between us, with volunteers, members of Nottingham Play Forum, and a whole range of others, including a Quaker work camp and volunteers from there that came in that did things like lagging of pipes, decorating, building work. We had a building firm in through the City Council to do the major works, but a lot of the minor works were done by volunteers and ourselves as workers for it.
I've read about that. So that was in 1986, I believe.
86. Oh, was it 86? Okay.
Well, I know it was 86 when it opened, and I've seen some of the photos. So you involved with Playworks just before you helped with the move to Bullivant Street, because is that right? So can you tell me? You said it was you got the funding. Do you know where you got the funding from?
It was in area programme funding.
Right. So it was City Council funding at that time.
Through the what was at the time the Urban Regeneration Unit, run by Jane Todd.
And my understanding was that Playworks before that was, or Nottingham Play Forum, should I say, because the Playworks name, I understand, started around the same time as Bullivant Street. In terms
it
of
was
resource,
Bullivant Street. Playworks was Bullivant Street.
So Playworks wasn't really a thing. It was Nottingham Play Forum before that date.
Yes.
And can you remember where Nottingham Play Forum was based before that? Because my understanding was there was offices at NCVS or on Mansfield Road.
No, we were based in CVS for a while. We were based in the two of us, myself and Lynn Bilson, were based in CVS offices, but but we also spent some time in prior to that in the Nottingham Community Project offices on Barkergate. So we worked out the two while we were working on identifying the building and getting the project set up.
And was that the point where the play development workers came in at the same time, or were the play development? Do you remember if there were play development workers?
There were two play development workers at the time. The play development service was a county council service, and the two play development workers for Nottingham were Viv Dudley and Chris Capel, who were the two, and they were based in offices just up Mansfield Road.
Right, and then when Bullivant Street opened, everyone came together.
We all moved into the offices together.
And I've seen some of the photos of volunteers sort of renovating the place, and the play news calling for help and stuff. It sounds like it was a big community effort to.
Yes.
And that typifies what I've been hearing about Playworks and Nottingham Play Forum at that time, that it was a very strong, vibrant organisation.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about some of the work that was perhaps going on at the time? Can you remember particular projects that you were involved in, or activities that were happening?
Well, most of the time that we spent was actually getting Playworks up and going. So there was a lot of work in there. I mean, we did things around the city, but there was an awful lot in terms of developing the projects. Things like making contacts with firms to be able to get scrap materials, building up that network really across the country as well, with other play resource centres, learning from the work that other people had done.
So you had links with other play resource centres in terms of swapping materials and just...
We had a national organisation called the FORC, which is the Federation of Resource Centres, which was a national organisation of play resource centres, and for quite a while I chaired that organisation.
Okay. Well, nationally? So you'd meet with other resource centres around and share good practice?
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
So we were in Bullivant Street, and actually we were the property was quite run down, despite the work with the money and the work that we'd spent in renovating it. And I was we were working at the time. There was a guy called Alan Parkinson from the Windbag Project, who was on our management committee. And Alan, the Windbag Project at that time, used the Playworks premises to build inflatables in, and they used to hire the top floor. And he approached me and said that apparently the church were keen to sell the Alfred Street. So we went to have a look at it, and just by chance, as we came out of the building, there was a bus pulled up that was full of Nottingham City councillors, some of whom we knew, who were on a housing tour at the time. And so just mentioned to a couple of them that we'd seen that we're looking at this building and this would be ideal for them, for a new Playworks building. And one of the councillors was Councillor John Collins, who was the St Anne's councillor at the time, and also chair of Community Development Committee. So from there, and it was a much better building in terms of being watertight. We had leaks in the Bullivant Street property. It was constantly having to put buckets to keep water out. It was cold in winter, and it was a big, vast space, a lot of which was underutilised. So we pursued the building, and at the time, it had just been announced that there was a regeneration programme for St Anne's, which was City Challenge. So I with the management committee, I applied through City Challenge money to buy and refurbish Bullivant Street, and we were successful in doing that, which meant that we could have a much more purpose-built building with training space, the scrap store, an office space, and better quality accommodation, with enough money to do the project properly, building project. So that was Alfred Street. That's the current Playworks building.
Right, and I understand that opened in the summer of '93. So I imagine that what you've just been talking about was sort of like late '92, early 1993 sort of time.
Would have been about 18 months before that.
Right, yeah. So and you moved in the summer, and were you still play resource worker at that time then?
Yes.
Yeah. So and you carried on into the new building.
Into the new building. I left. I started the city council in. When did I start the city council? It's been 25 years. Just 25 years.
Right.
So 25 years ago.
So soon after the new building started then.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
For a number of years as the chair of the Federation of Resource Centres, and we had a network across the country of different play resource centres, and had regular conferences twice a year and swaps. But actually, in terms of community play in the city, I don't really do any of that.
Right, but that was other people within Playworks, like Chris Capel and Steve Parkinson a bit later on. And
but they, their work was more with people who were working.
Yes.
With play rather than
direct.
Yes, no, I work with children, and that's how I'd always view.
And that's how it was. Yeah, no, I understand the difference.
And the difference would have been, so then there was a lot more voluntary sector. Play all of play was in the voluntary and community sector.
Yeah.
So it was only really in later years that the city council employed play workers, and no, that's not true. Apart from the adventure playgrounds, obviously.